It is OL Reign versus Washington Spirit. Was the first of these two semifinals that took place over the weekend. Washington Spirit walking away with the dub in this one. 2-1 is the final score line. And I gotta say, there were some moments, leading into this match. Perhaps let's set the scene a little bit, right? For people who are joining us and wanting to get filled in.
Sandra, jumping in, I'm sorry to cut you off, as I usually do. I had picked Washington to win, and you had picked Reign.
Let's get it out there first.
Okay, set the scene. How did the day unfold in Tacoma?
And the day unfolded. I mean, there was a game, number one, right? Because apparently it had been raining in Tacoma, Washington for days leading up to this match. There were scenes of grounds crew working diligently to make sure that the pitch was suitable, quite frankly, for a match. Looks like both teams ended up, getting a look out at it, and they checked it off, and they said, okay, let's have a game on this soccer baseball field. So a game was played, and I gotta say, let's just jump into this first half, because the action happened very, very quickly in this game. It was second place OL Reign hosting, third place Washington Spirit. Maybe in our preview we were like, wow, this is down to the final four teams. It's going to maybe be some more sort of narrow score lines, so maybe some tense moments, but that doesn't necessarily mean there was going to be a lack of exciting moments. And that was definitely the case, I think, in this first match, because we're talking 3 minutes into this game. OL Reign getting up on the scoreboard first via Eugenie Lesomer on an assist from Megan Rapinoe. Laura Harvey going with a lot more experience, right, in this starting 11 for this team. We saw a lot of the players that have been together on the Reign for quite some time. Rapinoe, one of them, Fishlock, right, in the midfield. And even for players who were not part of this Reign squad for a long time, just very experienced players within this starting 11 with playoff title type of experience of their own. Lesomer, Jennifer Marozane, right? Sarah Buadi and net in this one. So the stark difference, I think, maybe right away with sort of the vibe of like the older experienced team versus sort of the young up and coming team, right? But you had this link up between these two veterans of the game, right? Quite frankly, these two legends of the game, because they're both going to go out as such. But linking up for this opening goal, and it ends up being a little bit of record-making action here with the quickest goal in NWSL playoff history. 3rd minute, they get the go-ahead goal. So you got to be feeling good at that point, right?
You have to. I mean, what a way to start this game, and not to mention the conditions being really bad, still raining during game time and during kickoff. You heard reports from Jenny Chu saying that players were wearing metal studs. So already it's not really ideal conditions for either team, but OL Reign to get off on such a quick start. I was a little nervous. I knew that I had expected Washington to win, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Because we know that OL Reign can produce, and they can put all of their numbers together and the individual talent that they have to create really important things. But to do so quick in a game, especially against a team like Washington Spirit that has a goalkeeper like Aubrey Bledsoe, who can defend, who has a back line with Kelly O'Hara, is very veteran, and Emily Sonnet, not something I would have expected at all to see OL Reign just come out on such a quick start. There's action from first whistle to the last whistle in this match. And that's really how it got started. And I'm not at all surprised that it was the Rapinoe to Lesomer, because that combination is gold. It's pure gold. And it was the transition, which throughout this 20 minutes, OL Reign kept their foot on the gas pedal for sure. I'm really surprised at how the game ended. Washington just coming out, capitalizing better on their opportunities, being a little bit more clinical when they could, being a little smarter, thinking outside the box, because OL Reign had so many chances, so many opportunities on transition to get in behind that were frankly missed opportunities. You saw Lesomer make that goal early on in the game. She had so many other opportunities that slipped right between her fingers. And that's disappointing to see from a player like Lesomer, who is a veteran, who knows how to score goals, who knows how to play in big games. But the quick start, it set the tone for how chaotic and fun this match was going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Like, you had Washington Spirit on the other side of that, rising to the occasion and saying, like us
Mhm.
too. Like, we came in here to play. And it was very, this is, I think, was one of my favorite parts of this opening half for this match was that there was like two very sort of different goals that took place. You had this ridiculous beauty of a goal that just sort of had this lovely team build up, right? You've got Quinn doing what they do in the midfield, sort of bossing around on the pitch, winning a ball, laying it off for Marlson. Marlson just picking out a great lane, right, for Rapinoe, who had just was like, let me stay, let me hold up and not be offside on my run, get on the end of this ball, take it, as far as she can go, serve it into the box, and then Lace-Omer on the other side making the alternate run and putting it away, right? And then here we go in the 12th minute, Trinity Rodman, rookie candidate for rookie of the year, gets the equalizer in the 12th minute. So we're talking just 12 minutes later, but also the way they got this goal, the Spirit just sort of kind of utilizing this sort of like very early kind of semi-press, like a back press a little bit, but watching Sam Staub at the center back position just lob this ball forward to a darting Trinity Rodman, and just like the confidence like that this team has in which they could just do that and just see something to happen. It happened. So Trinity Rodman is like already making a run, and it's like this quick moment where it's like, boom, here's a cannon from
It was the
Staub.
play call, Sandra. It was the play call. It
It
was
was
Hail Mary from
absolutely quick. I
Staub
loved
up
it.
to Trinity Rodman. She knew the route she was running. She got in behind. Like,
I
it
loved both these
perhaps they
goals.
drew it up.
I loved both these goals really early in the game. I was like, oh wow. I was like, this is it. Like this is the game. We're gonna have like there's gonna be like a little bit of a heavyweight battle. It's gonna be like back and forth. And it was like that a little bit, but OL Reign having some control of this game of what felt like for a large majority of the match, even when this scoreline was level, it just
Mhm.
sort of felt as if that extra breakthrough goal was going to come, but it was going to come by way of the rain, and it just didn't. So it's all deadlock into halftime. There's no immediate
Well, Sandra,
adjustments or substitutions in the second half.
even in the first half, as this game is unfolding, yeah, we talked about the 3rd-minute goal from OL Reign, and then 12th minute from Trinity Rodman, and then in the 18th minute or so, about 5 minutes later, the Spirit actually did find the back of the net, ended up being offside on Trinity Rodman. She got ahead, a little flick onto the goal, but that was, I think, a momentum shift, because most games over a 90-minute span, it takes the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, not 10 to 15 minutes for teams to feel out their opponents, to understand the style of play, especially in tricky conditions that both of these teams were playing on at Cheney Stadium. But in the first 12 minutes, it was just chaotic. And then the second goal that got called back offside by Washington Spirit, I think that also set the tone for this game and really got into OL Reign's headspace, in the fact that they got the opening goal and then Washington Spirit responded. They got another goal, didn't count though. And that's where I think the mindset was for OL Reign, that we need to stay on the front foot.
Yeah, that's
This
right. That's a great point.
this
That
team
that
is
was that
not
was
going
ruled
back.
offside. It was ruled offside, and I had a thought for a second. I was like, oh no, like, are we gonna see some things here where we're getting into an area of like the inexperience, right? Of like the young players, as being sort of the first semifinal. It's like, okay, like
And
maybe there's a
without
little bit of
Grace,
extra, maybe the over eagerness or the over excitement is maybe gonna work against that, but the end up not being the case. And then the fact that it was even at halftime, I was like, okay, well, we're about to see the goals happen in the second half, and that was partially true, but maybe not in sort of a ballooned scoreline kind of way, right? We see a little, not a tactical adjustment, but we see a little bit of an adjustment that was made just around the hour mark or so for OL Reign via Laura Harvey in an effort to what it sort of felt like maybe get some different attacking looks for the team to try to push for that go ahead goal. But just after the substitution is made, you have the Spirit win this set piece corner, and I'm like, oh my god! While we're talking about the first two goals, we absolutely have to talk about this one, which ended up being the game winner. This corner is played short, and it goes to Ashley Sanchez, who's just in open space. And she just has this remarkable presence of mind to just sort of take a quick move and basically sort of float this shot almost end line, and it drifts into the net. It was absolutely a magical goal. And if you missed it, you better go to
It is.
Attacking Third YouTube and watch that highlight. It was ridiculous, this goal.
So, if anyone who has been watching Ashley Sanchez throughout this year, she is so creative on the ball and with her vision of the field. And it's hard to tell if you're not super keyed in on what she's doing and where her head movements are going. I'm a crazy analyst and I watch all of these tiny details from her because she is such an impressive, creative attacking player for Washington. And in this moment, I think kind of the world got a look into the mind of Ashley Sanchez, because as she receives this ball, it's like shot and then a redeflected save and not saved well. So it ends up at her feet. And she's almost parallel to the goal, just outside of the goalpost. She has Buati in front of her, arms wide spread, a mix of players right by the penalty spot that she could have easily driven this ball low and hard into that mix, hoping a player gets a toe poke on it. But no, she is creative and she has the vision and the skill and the technique to be able to use the outside of her right foot and cut on the inside of the ball. And if you watch it, it spins, so it curls through the air and then goes into the back post. This was 100% intentional. She meant to chip this the way she did with her right foot, using the outside of it so it would curl and find the inside of the net. It's similar to a lot of times we see it on corner kicks when players can curl it into the net. That's exactly what Sanchez did, just from a shorter distance and chipping it. So not getting a lot of power behind it and just focusing on the technique. Fantastic. Phenomenal. No wonder she got the U.S. women's national team call up for later in this month. And she knew. If you watch the replay and watch this goal happen for Ashley Sanchez, you can watch it on youtube.com/attacking third. The ball doesn't even actually cross the line yet, and she starts celebrating because she knows. She knows. She was trying to score, and as soon as it got over Buati and she didn't save it, Sanchez knew it was in the net.
I love the confidence, right? It's just like there's just like a ridiculous
It
There's
was
just like
fun.
a ridiculous, like, amount of swagger right now that's sort of coming out from this young Spirit side, and it's just been such a joy to watch it evolve into and grow really into this postseason, and it really just sort of continued to carry them, I think, through this second half because again, I mean, we we had heard post game a little bit that Laura Harvey was sort of taking the loss on herself as the coach, right, as the head of the team, and the more veteran players were doing the opposite and taking that loss upon themselves and sort of saying, hey, there was a great game plan in place here,
Mhm.
but we were the ones who did not execute. And I know there was maybe some wondering or around sort of that moment of making that substitution, bringing Quinn off, right, your defensive mid in favor of somebody like a Bethany Balser to be an extra attacking option for the team, and it just something that didn't pan out for the OL Reign as time just quite frankly continued to run out on them. I don't really truly feel or believe it was lack of effort or anything like that because there were looks that were happening. They were getting looks in Washington Spirit's half and then their final third. There was a very there was a very funny, like, sort of like individual matchup that was taking place between the two vets and Megan Rapinoe and Kelly O'Hara, who ended up getting carded, right, for sort of putting a body on Rapinoe, and it just never came. It did the breakthrough just didn't come through, and you just sort of saw this Spirit team kind of shift a little bit and being able to kind of close out a game like this. And it was just very, very impressive. Even as Olren was still sort of, making their own adjustments and trying to bring in more, attacking players and someone like an Ali Watt. But having somebody, those 90-minute subs and somebody like a Paige Nielsen is
Yeah.
a real insurance policy, I think, if you're the Spirit. But it was just a very sort of a well executed final 15 minutes or so to sort of see from the younger Spirit side.
It was, and OL Reign, it wasn't for lack of effort by any means. Some numbers for you. We love to throw out the stats there. 23 total shots from OL Reign throughout this match. Washington had 13. So that's a big difference. And then when you look at individually, Liz Omer had 7, Megan Rapinoe had 5. That makes up the majority for OL Reign and how well they were attacking and being able to get in behind, but not clinical. And these are from 2 veterans. Megan Rapinoe, she had one, I believe, in the first half, right after the opening goal, that another breakaway got in behind Washington's back line. She had a breakaway. She had the far post open, and she missed it. And those are the moments that big players need to step up, and they need to do that. And maybe because OL Reign has all these big players and all of this talent, they all felt that pressure to step up in those big moments. Whereas a team like Washington Spirit, you could see them leaning on each other. You could see them saying, we're going to do this collectively and as a team unit. We have a game plan and we're going to stick to it. And that's what they did, especially riding out the last 15 minutes or so of this match, taking off Ashley Hatch, understanding that they don't need another goal at this point. We need to be more defensive. We need to be smart defensively. And in those moments, you can see players like Andy Sullivan, Kelly O'Hara, Sana in the back line communicating with the team and saying, like, this is our game plan. Stay defensively, hold your feet, don't slide, don't go into too hard of tackles. They play smart in those moments, and that's exactly what Washington did. It was really fun and pleasing to see from a team that has had their moments. And a player like Trinity Rodman throughout this season, she's been a player that opponents have picked on because they know that they can get her fired up and they know that they can force her to make mistakes when she gets in her head. And the maturity growth and that wave of progression from this team throughout this season, the pinnacle is here, and they did it. They made it to the final.
It's absolutely noticeable. It's absolutely noticeable. Laura Harvey praised Trinity Rodman in her post game, mentioning and reminding everyone that that was a player that Harvey had coached during her time with the youth national teams, and is really been sort of impressed with the progression and the development of Rodman, and how that player has been able to make those type of adjustments and to be able to rise, and it's in these type of sort of big stage scenarios. So we're gonna get to see this team in the final.